Good morning. Well, welcome back, everyone. It's our first in-person meeting since February 2020, so it's good to be back. And I want to thank Dr. Fowler and the UMGC team for hosting us today. I'll call the meeting to order, and we're going to start with a bit of sadness. It is with great sadness I share that the Board of Regents Chair, James T. Brady, former chair, passed away last night. He was with his wife and daughter. I want to extend my condolences to Jim's family and friends. Jim was a member of this board from 2015 to 2018. He served for a year as chair of the Committee on Education Policy and Student Life, and he was chair of the Board of Regents from 2016 to 2018. Jim was admired, community-minded, and a great business leader. He served in state government with both Democratic and Republican administrations, and he gave his time and talent to numerous community service organizations. Jim was a tireless advocate for the state of Maryland, always giving his very best. We will miss his intelligence, his insight, and his leadership. And I would ask for a moment of silence. It really is difficult to express just how happy I am to see everyone in person again. With all of us in one room, I consider it a day of celebration and renewal. Of course, our in-person gathering doesn't mean we're past the challenge of COVID-19. Throughout the summer, this board, our USM leadership, our university presidents and their team worked tirelessly to make sure we'd be able to safely welcome students back to the campus this fall. I'm deeply grateful for those efforts. I congratulate all of you on a successful return to campus, and I thank you for your sustained vigilance. I do also want to acknowledge someone who's not here with us this morning. As you're aware, Chancellor Perman is recuperating from a medical procedure. He's doing well. And I know all of you will join me in wishing him a speedy recovery. Today's meeting is the first of several where we hopefully will have a lot of time for interaction and discussion. We also welcome new members to the board. Hugh Breslin is a media consultant with more than 40 years of experience in broadcasting. He recently retired from a leadership role in Nexstar Media Group, the country's largest TV broadcasting company. Robert Hur has decades of legal experience in government and private practice and is currently a partner in the DC office of Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher, specializing in crisis management. Some of us think we could have used you on the board a couple years ago. Douglas Peters served as Maryland State Senator from 2007 through his appointment to the board in July. Prior to that, he served on the Prince George's County Council and the Bowie City Council. Andy Smirek is joining us also and was chair of the Maryland Higher Education Commission and president of the Maryland State Board of Education. He also served on the White House Democratic Domestic Policy Council and in the U.S. Department of Education. Singh Pringle is Maryland's Deputy Commerce Secretary. She brings expertise in business development, financing, international investment, trade, and military and federal affairs. And we're blessed to have two students this year. Ada Beam is a junior at the University of Maryland College Park and will be joining us for 1 year as the voting student member of the board. And finally, Otola Aludayo is a student at Bowie State University and is serving the first of his 2 years on the board. I welcome all of the new regents and I look forward to our work ahead. I do have one more acknowledgement to make. And as you know, last month, UMGC President Freeman Hrabowski announced his intention to retire at the end of the academic year. While we'll have several months to say goodbye to Dr. Hrabowski and celebrate his achievements at UMGC, I do want to express how much he's meant, not only to the university, but to the system, the state, higher education itself, and personally to me. Freeman has pioneered much of what we know works in teaching and learning. His embrace of innovation, his unparalleled commitment to student success, his vision of inclusive excellence, all of it has shaped a system of higher education that serves everyone and nurtures everyone. He'll be leaving an institution that's so much stronger for his leadership. Thank you, Freeman. In a few minutes, we'll hear from our host this morning, University of Maryland Global Campus President Greg Fowler. I think it's fitting that our first in-person meeting at the board in 18 months is being hosted by our newest university president. After President Fowler, we have a presentation from Dr. Leonard Hayes, Senior Advisor at the Strategic Education, Inc., which is working to accelerate student learning at HBCUs nationwide. And then Senior Vice Chancellor Joe Baughman will deliver the Chancellor's report on Dr. Perman's behalf. But we begin today by celebrating excellence and the dedication of our people. As you know, we typically precede our September meeting with a breakfast honoring our Board of Regents staff awards. While regrettably, we're unable to have a proper breakfast this year, we just couldn't wait to recognize the staff who have done such extraordinary things for the system and for their institutions and our students. So I asked Dr. Baughman to join me at the podium. Joe comes, as I've said, being together makes this academic year a special one. And I can't think of a better way of beginning than by paying tribute publicly to our people. Award winners are selected based on nominations and letters of support from colleagues, culminating in a formal recommendation from the Council of University System Staff. These awards are the highest staff honor given by Regents, and each award carries a $2,000 prize provided by the institutions and the USM Foundation. Dr. Baughman, would you lead us off?
Thank you very much, Chair Gooden. It's a privilege to stand in for Chancellor Perman this morning. And I would just like to say I am, as one of the coordinators of our COVID response, I'm very pleased at the compliance here. And I want to let you know that Chair Gooden and I both tested negative this morning, as well as having been fully vaccinated. So we've decided to take our masks off for this portion of the program.
I've even had my booster.
She's ahead of all of us, as usual. Throughout the pandemic, we've said over and over again that our USM staff have been utterly indispensable, whether working on campus or remotely, or some combination of the two. They have kept the system running and our services going, kept our people safe, and kept our students succeeding. Their work and their sacrifice across the system are the foundation for everything we were able to accomplish last year. But of course, this commitment is nothing new. Our staff have always embodied excellence, which is why these awards were created in the first place by the Board of Regents. Our first award, Exceptional Contribution to the Institution, goes to Juliana Brush, a contracts and grants specialist with the Horn Point Laboratory at the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Sciences. Over her 7 years with UMCs, Julie has become known for her deep commitment to the organization, her positive impact on its work in the environment, and her collaborative approach to getting the job done. Julie has created partnerships that have helped Horn Point improve efficiency, and she goes above and beyond in her official duties, working on a variety of UMC's committees. These include her service as chair of the staff council and an active member of the mental health council, one that we all know is extremely important at this time. UMC's president, Peter Goodwin, says Julie is the go-to expert on all things grants and contracts, shared governance, leadership, and relationship building. Congratulations, Julie. Will you and President Goodwin please come up? Yes, you can remove it.
Yes.
For the picture.
All right, guys. Don't smile. I love you all.
Thank you. Congratulations, Julie.
Our second award for exceptional contribution to the institution goes to Victor Fulda, engineering technician with the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. A 27-year veteran of UMBC, Victor is among the most highly respected professionals in the university's Department of Chemical, Biochemical, and Environmental Engineering. He's regarded as the expert on all issues related to equipment, chemistry, process, and he never shies away from a challenge. Of course, he encounters plenty of challenges because the lab he serves essentially runs 24/7. Nevertheless, he's always available to troubleshoot and provide support. UMBC President Freeman Hrabowski says that Victor is more than a team member. He's a mentor, a colleague, and a teacher. Victor, congratulations. Will you and President Hrabowski please come up?
Congratulations. Thank you. That's great. Let me start that.
Oh, okay. And she got a booster, it's okay. Yeah. Thank you all very much.
The Regents Staff Award for Outstanding Service to Students in an Academic or Residential Environment goes to Donna Hammer, an area, of course, close to my heart. She's the Director of Education in the Department of Physics, the University of Maryland College Park. Donna is known for her energy and focus in supporting all students, while also nurturing female and minority students who are chronically underrepresented in physics. And as a scientist myself, I can appreciate this especially strongly. As the pandemic raged, Donna was instrumental in moving instruction to a virtual format. And of course, she had to do it with speed and urgency. She strives to inspire an interest in physics among children, teenagers, and college students alike. According to physics chair Steve Alston and College Park President Daryl Pines, Donna is a fierce advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion within the physics department, ensuring that all students get a real shot at success. She's a natural organizer, and in their words, a genius at outreach. Donna, congratulations. Could you and President Pines please come forward? And turn it a little bit toward me so it doesn't shine. There you go. Congratulations.
The Regents Award for Extraordinary Public Service to the University or to the greater community goes to Patricia Watson, Assistant Director for Sustainability at Towson University. To make sure her work has impact, Patty has identified a few key areas of focus for Towson's sustainability efforts: waste reduction, renewable energy, alternative transportation, and protection of the natural environment. And its impact that Patty is after. That's exactly what she delivered. Last year, for instance, Towson was one of the only 3 universities nationwide honored by the EPA for reducing food waste. Patty's direct work to shrink Towson's environmental footprint, plus her work to educate students, faculty, and staff has made a difference. President Satchel says Patty's charge is vast, but she's found ways to make progress, creating a healthier and more sustainable campus for current taggers and generations to follow. Patty, congratulations. Will you and President Satchel please join me?
We have 2 Regent Staff Awards for effectiveness and efficiency. And there's a reason we've asked President Chancellor to remain here in the front by the podium. Because our first award goes to Julie Leary, Associate Director of Client Services at Towson University. A member of the TU community for 13 years, Julie is a part of the team that created Towson's EduCycle, a computer reconditioning and repurposing program, more important than ever this last year. Benefiting the university and the local community organizations, the program has so far brought second life to more than 4,500 computers and saved the university and its K-12 partners in excess of $4 million. The program also provides skills training to the 800 plus student volunteers in this program. President Schatzel says that Julie brings exceptional value to the university, and underscoring that sentiment is the fact that Julie built and runs this program while continuing to carry out her official job duties in the Office of Technology Services. Julie, congratulations. Thank you for joining us here.
Our second Regents Staff Award winner in effectiveness and efficiency is Crystal Kelly, Director of Publications at Salisbury University. Crystal has been with Salisbury for almost a decade, more than half of that time in her current role. To help the publications office work smarter, faster, and more cost effectively, she partnered with her colleagues in IT to implement an online work order system. The new system allows her team to eliminate duplicate entries, provide a campus self-service platform, create an evenly distributed workflow model, reduce errors, and provide timely feedback. And since all of this was done in-house, the system has saved the department funds, it's highly customizable, and it has no ongoing annual costs. Salisbury President Chuck White commended Crystal's efforts, lauding her for saving the university a significant amount of time and money. Crystal, congratulations. Would you and President White come up?
That's big smile.
Our final award today is for inclusion, multiculturalism, and social justice. This award goes to Amanda Pepperado, Assistant Director of Adventure at the University of Maryland College Park. The Adventure program offers experiences that promise personal growth, transformational learning, social responsibility, and environmental stewardship. Amanda is shaping generations of College Park students who live the university's deeply held ideals of inclusion, opportunity, and justice, and who make a difference on the campus and in the community. Amanda also works with the Student Affairs Diversity Initiative and the President's Commission on Disability Issues, inspiring students and colleagues alike to find ways to serve others through their work on a daily basis. College Park President Darrell Pines has said, Amanda's tireless advocacy demonstrates that each and every member of the campus community can help build a more equitable world. Amanda, congratulations. Would you and President Pines please come forward?
Once again, thank you and congratulations to all of our award winners. Dr. Boffman and I would also thank the thousands more USM staff here in Maryland, and yes, around the world, who are without a question the bedrock of our success. We are truly indebted to you. Could all of the award winners gather once more for a group photo? Over there, yes. That's what the script says. It's now my privilege to welcome our host, Greg Fowler, President of the University of Maryland Global Campus. Dr. Fowler came to the USM from Southern New Hampshire University, where he was president of the university's global campus. His career in online education and academic innovation is long and distinguished. And though he just started at UMGC in January of this year, he and his team has already celebrated impressive accomplishments. He'll share a few of those with us now, along with his vision for the future of UMGC. Dr. Fowler.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Chair Gooden. Good morning and welcome to University of Maryland Global Campus. It is wonderful to meet with you in person and to see some of you face to face for the first time. I'm so grateful that even as we face the challenges of the global pandemic, the steady advances of science and our united efforts give us cause for hope, a reminder of all that brought me here to UMGC just 9 months ago. Some of you have heard my story, and for those of you who haven't, I would simply say that I've experienced firsthand the power of education to transform lives. I grew up with my mother, father, and 7 brothers and sisters in a 2-bedroom home in Albany, Georgia, where my parents continue to live to this day. My siblings and I went on to earn college degrees and to live lives and opportunities that we would not have enjoyed had it not been for the transformative influence of education, which brings me to UMGC, both literally and figuratively. 2022 marks our 75th anniversary, and from the first, our institution is focused on meeting students where they are and providing the right education in the right way at the right time. That represents a point of pride and also a solemn responsibility, because we must be able and willing to evolve and grow in order to serve the students who need us the most. In all that we do as an institution, we are guided by what I like to call the 4 A's of education: academic quality, accessibility, affordability, and accountability. And these inform every facet of our strategic decision-making. Academic quality tops that list as we strive to be a student-centered institution at every level of our operation. With that in mind, we continue to deliberately design all of our learning experiences so that learners can clearly see the specific knowledge, skills, abilities, and dispositions they should expect to achieve, and understand how those KSATs will help them succeed in the 21st century workplace. We are also expanding our curriculum, adding credit and non-credit courses and programs that align with student demand and workforce needs, partnering with community colleges to make UMGC the most transfer-friendly college in America. And we are constantly seeking more ways to award learners with college credit for the experiences they have already had, which is consistent with our belief that most of life's greatest lessons happen outside of the formal classroom. Access to an education that can change lives has been a primary focus at UMGC since our inception in 1947. No matter where you are around the globe, every person has the right to that empowerment. Our relationship with the US military exemplifies that premise and has continued since 1949, when we sent 7 faculty members overseas to teach US troops in post-war Europe. The overseas programs grew from there. As the documentary series on TV notes about UMGC, with the motto, "Half syllabus will travel," UMGC professors have taught on installations from Iceland to Antarctica, from London to Okinawa, from the jungles of Vietnam to the deserts of Kuwait and Iraq, and the mountains of Afghanistan and Bosnia. They've even taught aboard ships at sea. That tradition of service to the military remains central to our identity and our mission. And I'm pleased to note that we recently signed a new 5-year contract to teach troops on the ground in the Middle East and North Africa, including in locations such as Bahrain, Djibouti, Egypt, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. In addition, we've opened new education and service centers in North Carolina, Texas, and soon on Patrick Space Force Base in Florida. We are partnering with Excellencia in Education to better understand how to remove common barriers for first-generation learners and support the education goals of the Latinx community. We continue to enhance the ways we serve students with learning challenges, while also working to ensure that the learning experiences we offer are fully ADA compliant. And we remain committed to our mission of being Maryland's open access institution, providing an education to any and all of Maryland's residents. Affordability is another key challenge across higher education, and we continue to focus on diversifying our revenue streams and growing our agreements with corporate partners like Amazon, Amazon Web Services, Uber, and Mantech, while also strengthening our relationship with Maryland's community colleges through programs like our 3D Scholars Program with Prince George's County High Schools and Community College, allowing 10th graders to enroll in college programs and ultimately complete their degrees for less than $10,000. We have just established a dual admission transfer partnership with the Community College of Baltimore County, and we are streamlining the processes for granting credit for prior non-college experiences, thus saving students money while also accelerating their progress towards the degree. Accountability is emerging as a key differentiator in the adult higher ed sector, and we're expanding the array of key performance indicators that we look at as we focus on increasing student satisfaction, persistence, retention, success, and ultimately completion rates. Being a student-centered institution requires that we have a clear understanding of what our students seek when they come to us. It requires a level of humility, recognizing that we will never be more than our students' third highest priority after family and jobs. Still, we create learning experiences that can change the destinies of their families and communities. Many of our students have tried college multiple times before leaving with debt and no degree. But we must be innovative, creative, and do non-traditional models if we do not want to repeat traditional results and if we want to see these learners succeed. Despite the challenges posed by the pandemic, that success of our learners was on display in various ways around the globe over the last year. We found creative ways to celebrate the success of our 13,000 graduates in 2021, including a drive-in commencement in Europe. Each graduate has a story of hope and sacrifice, support and success that reminds our UMGC team of the impact we can have on the world as we work together. And now, I am pleased to introduce one recent UMGC graduate who embodies all of the things which I just spoke of, Pillars of Strength Scholarship recipient Lauren Warner. Like so many of our students who balance job, family, and military responsibilities, Lauren has faced and overcame challenges far beyond the bounds of her master's program in management. As you may know, the Pillars of Strength Scholarship is reserved for volunteer caregivers of U.S. service members wounded, injured, or taken seriously ill in the line of duty. It is the only program of its kind in the country, and it covers the full cost of a UMGC degree. It acknowledges the remarkable sacrifices that so many caregivers make. The unsung heroes may be family members, partners, or friends, and often they put their own lives and careers on hold to care for their loved ones. We are humbled and honored to support them as they pursue their education. Joining us this morning to share her remarkable journey, please welcome UMGC alumna Lauren Warner.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Warner. I'm an Army brat, veteran, Army spouse, and caregiver. 3 years into what I thought was going to be a full-time career in the military, I met my future spouse, and the trajectory of my career, as well as my life in general, changed drastically. My soon-to-be husband, Selden, had an undiagnosed and untreated traumatic brain injury and PTSD from a recent deployment. We dated for nearly a year before he proposed, and in a way, I began my journey as a caregiver before we were married, and that journey has now lasted longer than my career in the military did. I went from getting up to go to PT and work at 5 a.m. to missing a lot of work and sleep due to the consistency and severity of the seizures that my husband began having during his treatment. I juggled my Army responsibilities and my career for about a year before I realized that I was unable to sustain this lifestyle without falling apart myself. Both my husband and I had our military careers cut short, and in order to ensure focus stayed on his recovery, I started planning for a future that would potentially require me to be the sole breadwinner for our family. Even with my specialty public affairs training and a certificate in business administration and a dual bachelor's under my belt, I felt that I needed to continue to build a stronger case for an increased salary in the workforce in the event that I was to long-term be our sole income. I knew that I had to be able to position myself to be more marketable, which for me meant going back to school for my master's. I was awarded the Pillars of Strength Scholarship in 2018 and graduated with my master's in marketing management from UMGC. This opportunity opened doors to new jobs and also launched me into a new network, not to mention a support system that I have taken advantage of myself and also referred other military caregivers to. Being able to do my classwork and submit assignments literally anywhere was a lifesaver for me. From knocking out my reading while my husband was in therapy at the VA, to completing homework while we were at the beach with my family, or studying for exams during a trip to Scandinavia, I maintained my GPA and a steady course load over the 2 years of schooling. Given that my life had changed rather dramatically, things such as me time were often forgotten concepts. But in the midst of the turmoil I was facing, my classes became my me time and allowed me to do something for myself. The me time also afforded me the opportunity to improve and update many skills on my resume, and projects from my UMGC classes are now staples in my marketing portfolio that prove that I'm constantly working to stay on top of my game, competitive and competent in my field. Currently, I'm serving as the Yellow Ribbon Fund Program Coordinator for the DC metro area, and in just a week, I'll be joining Black Rifle Coffee Company to start developing and running a blog from scratch for their company. Living in and working for the military caregiver community, I see and experience firsthand the difficulties and limitations that caregivers are presented with. Opportunities such as Pillars of Strength remove some of those obstacles by offering not just online learning, but quality online learning that empowers the caregivers to further their education and improve life for themselves and their families. Surprisingly, amid the pandemic, there has come a silver lining for many in my position. Both universities and employers are realizing that school and work can be done just as efficiently, if not more so, than in the office. Proving that military spouses could work, not just cold call jobs or customer service jobs, but really any kind of work, was a platform that I fought for before the pandemic. As terrible as 2020 was, it helped prove my point, possibly the weirdest silver lining, that we were able to work from home. Military caregivers can't depend on the hopes and dreams that their loved one will get better or go back to 100% being the person that they were prior to their illness or injury. I understand that with my husband, there's always the chance that the minute I walk out of the house, something could go wrong. A seizure, PTSD episode, any of that could come on. So for me, the flexibility of being able to work from home is pretty much a non-negotiable. Going to school, pursuing that additional education, and bettering yourself is really important because you don't know what's going to happen to your veteran. My husband might be doing okay right now, but there's a possibility that down the road, it could flip my world upside down. Having the extra cushion of this degree under my belt gives me something to fall back on. This is key in the caregiver world where there are so many unknowns. A misdiagnosis that creeps up, surprise financial pitfalls, you name it, it's happened to a military family. If nothing else, Pillars of Strength gives its recipients certainty and support by giving them a quality education at UMGC and allowing them to graduate debt-free so they can focus on moving onward and upward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for sharing your inspiring story and for helping remind us why we do what we do every day. And thank you, Chair Gooden, members of the Board of Regents, and guests for this opportunity to speak with you today. Again, welcome to UMGC, and thank you for all you do in support of Maryland higher education.
Thank you, Dr. Fowler, and what an inspiration your student was today. You know, we don't often think about the spouses of veterans, and what a compelling story. Today, our educational topic today is on HBCUs, now and on the horizon. Dr. Leonard Hayes is the Senior VP and Special Advisor for HBCU initiatives at Strategic Education, Inc. He will be speaking to us today about HBCUs, their role today, and what's next for them on the horizon. Dr. Haynes is a former Senior Director with the Department of Education and a former Executive Director of the White House Initiative on Historically Black Colleges and Universities. He has served on the faculty at numerous universities, including Howard University, George Washington University, Ohio State University, Southern University, and has also served as president of Grambling State University. He is widely recognized for his work in education, especially HBCU education. He has counseled numerous foundations and corporate organizations on HBCU education and has recognized for his work with 14 honorary degrees and a Distinguished Service Award named in his honor by the White House. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Leonard Haynes.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction. And let me say good morning to all of you and also to congratulate you for your service to the state of Maryland through education. It's an honor and great joy to be with you today to talk on a subject that's near and dear to me. But before I begin my remarks, I do want to acknowledge that I'm happy to see friends in the audience at the table too. President Bro, President Jenkins, Ike Leggett, who like me is a graduate of Southern University, and my dear friend Freeman Hrabowski for over 30 years, and he's retiring now, but what was not said about him, he's one of the leading presidents in the nation. Yes, I'm no stranger to the University of Maryland. I once taught here too, education policy at College Park. But there's something I wanted to share with you that because of one of the system campuses, I'm able to stand before you today. In 2013, I had brain surgery, and the operation took place at the Washington Hospital Center. To get me back on my feet, I was blessed with the services of 3 tremendous, outstanding nurses who were graduates of Coppin State. They specialized in neurosurgical procedures and the like. And when they came into the room, my wife said, these are our nurses. So my first question was, where did you go to school? And then they said, Coppin State. And I smiled. And it shows the power of what HBCUs can do. And they literally were in charge. And this is the God's truth. I did exactly what they told me to do. So I stand before you today. Today, there are 101 HBCUs. They were founded before the Civil War, the first one being Cheney State in 1837, followed by Wilberforce University, named after the famous British abolitionist William Wilberforce in 1856. The youngest HBCU is Mississippi Valley State University, founded in 1950. That is, by the way, the alma mater of the great Jerry Rice, who played for the 49ers. Most HBCUs were established between 1865 and 1912 through the efforts of Northern missionaries and philanthropists, Black church denominations, and the Morrill Act of 1890. HBCUs comprise 3% of America's post-secondary institutions, serving more than a fifth of African-American students who earn bachelor's and master's degrees. Recall now, there were no reparations for Blacks after the emancipation, nor was there created a reconciliation commission. Blacks were left to fend for themselves. The creation of educational institutions has been essential to Black advancement in America. Indeed, the Black middle class would not exist today were it not for HBCUs, nor would the Smithsonian's African American Museum of History and Culture, which incidentally does not have a list of the HBCUs, the dates of their founding, where they are located, that's not in the museum today, which I find embarrassing. And I'm working to try to get that corrected. HBCU graduates have made positive contributions from the academy to the military, sports, public service, science, medicine, and health, religion, technology, and the arts in advancing the common good throughout the nation and the world at large. According to the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, 40% of African Americans who are members of Congress, 50% of African American lawyers, 80% of African American judges are HBCU alums. NAFIO reports that HBCUs graduate 50% of African Americans who are teaching in the public schools today. And by the way, today's data indicates this number needs a dramatic increase, especially in the STEM fields. HBCUs received their federal designation from the Higher Education Act of 1965, signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson. And it said, if an institution has a charter indicating it was founded before 1964 for the express purpose of educating African Americans, it is an official HBCU. No other segment in American higher education has an official federal designation. I ought to repeat that because many people don't understand that. The H is what matters for HBCUs. It is a federal designation. To buttress this key point, President Jimmy Carter issued the first executive order creating the White House Initiative on HBCUs, directing the federal agencies to increase and expand the participation of HBCUs in their programs. Every president since Carter has reissued an executive order for HBCUs. The latest one issued was Executive Order 13779, signed by President Trump. The Trump EO focused on making HBCUs more competitive and emphasized the vital role of public-private partnerships to increase HBCU participation in the federal government. Last year, the HBCU Partners Act was signed into law, which requires for the first time codification of all the executive orders for HBCUs and directs the federal agencies now to provide annual reports to the Congress on their financial support for the implementation of the executive order. This is truly groundbreaking and significant. According to a 2018 United Negro College Fund report, the collective economic impact of HBCUs on the nation was over $16 billion a year. And by the way, UNCF was created in 1944 as a fundraising arm for private HBCUs by Dr. Frederick Patterson, the third president of Tuskegee Institute, now university. Astute observers note the $16 billion may be a conservative number, as the impact report only focused on direct spending. And you can see this information on the UNCF website. The Thurgood College Marshall College Fund began in 1987 to raise funds for public HBCUs, and your three members of this system are all members of TMCF. Today, HBCUs enroll over 300,000 students, with many institutions reporting dramatic increases in enrollment for the 2021 academic year. Reporting increases have included Bowie State, North Carolina A&T, Edward Waters, among others. Most students who attend HBCUs depend heavily on access to federal student aid programs. HBCUs are located in 19 states, the District of Columbia, and the Virgin Islands. 31 states do not have an HBCU. 20 are 1890 land-grant institutions. North Carolina and Alabama are home to 10 HBCUs respectively. There are 3 medical schools, 1 vet school. There's 1 HBCU system, Southern University. 21 HBCUs are constituent members of the following state systems. The University of Maryland system has 3. North Carolina has 5. Texas A&M 1. The University of Georgia 3. The Mississippi Board of Higher Education 3. Tennessee 1. Oklahoma State 1. University of Arkansas 1. University of Louisiana 1. Pennsylvania State Colleges and Universities 2. There's 1 Catholic-related HBCU, Xavier of Louisiana. 14 HBCUs are 2-year institutions. All total, there are 86 4-year institutions, 37 public and 49 privates. 2 are private women's colleges, and 1 is a private male college where Greg went to school. 6 HBCUs have law schools, 8 have pharmacy, 22 have ROTC programs, while 16 have engineering schools. Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia are home to 4 HBCUs, while New Orleans is home to 3. 13 state capitals are home to HBCUs, while the nation's capital has 2, and the capital of the Virgin Islands has 1. Several HBCUs are located near major federal installations in the following cities and counties: Baltimore, Somerset County, Maryland, Columbia, South Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida, Montgomery, Alabama, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Hampton, Virginia, Petersburg, Virginia, Dover, Delaware, Huntsville, Alabama, Houston, Texas, Savannah, Georgia, Prince George's County, and Washington, D.C. Howard is the only comprehensive university in the HBCU universe and the wealthiest when one totals the annual federal appropriation. By the way, funds that they receive have no restrictions for use. Its endowment and tuition and fees for over 10,000 enrolled students makes Howard a $1 billion operation. Langston University was founded in Oklahoma before it became a state. Today, Langston is the International Goat Research Center for the United States of America. Since 2018, HBCUs have received significant increases in support via congressional appropriations. The prior administration made major loan forgiveness in the amount of $322 million for 4 HBCUs: Xavier, Tougaloo, Dillard, and Suno owed the federal government $322 million. It was eliminated by the stroke of a pen. There were 17 deferments given to HBCUs who owed money to the HBCU Capital Finance Program. The 2018 Farm Bill provided $40 million in mandatory support for the 1890 community and another $20 million in discretionary support. In 2020, OMB directed all agencies to increase support for HBCUs as per the executive order. Support for the HBCU Title III Part B institutional grant program And by the way, 97 HBCUs participate in this discretionary grant program. All 3 of your members do, but not Howard because it gets a direct federal appropriation. But increases in that program went up in FY 19, 20, and 21. The primary institutional accrediting bodies responsible for accrediting HBCUs are the Higher Education Learning Commission, the Middle States Commission on Colleges, and the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges, SACS. SACS accredits over 80% of all HBCUs because of their location in the Southern region. Although HBCUs have benefited from increased support, they receive only a fraction in the total support directed to a state. For example, the state of Maryland receives over $16 billion in federal support on an annual basis, but the state's HBCUs receive less than 1% of that support. Recent announcements from the corporate, private, and philanthropic community, their contributions, and the federal court case in Maryland to the HBCU community have resulted in significant and welcome increases in funding. The Mackenzie Scott gift, for example, unrestricted funds, has provided $20 million to Bowie State University and $20 million to the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Increased federal support, including the creation of opportunity zones that provide tax credits to private investors who support HBCUs located in a zone. And by the way, 52 HBCUs are located in opportunity zones, represents significant leverage to attract significant funding sources. HBCUs who benefit from increased contributions are those who have developed compelling strategies that focus on meeting the priorities of their state and the nation. Absence of compelling strategies to guide meaningful and constructive decisions to make effective use of the increased funding is a major problem for many HBCUs. HBCUs also face another major problem. Typically, they are not viewed as viable assets in the economic development plans of their local and state governments. Take Atlanta, Georgia, for example, the home of 4 HBCUs. Recently, the city of Atlanta developed an economic development plan. The 4 HBCUs in the city had no input in the plan, but listen to this. They didn't even know the plan was being developed. Producing graduates who are competitive in the global economy and citizens committed to making a positive contribution in the society represents the essential mission of the HBCU community. Excellent teaching, pertinent research capability, and commitment to meaningful public service are key factors to expediting this vital mission. Moving forward, HBCUs need a compelling strategy to be activated as underutilized assets. States, counties, cities where HBCUs are located should issue their own executive orders to create favorable conditions for HBCUs to build partnerships and relationships to take advantage of available opportunities. HBCUs who have an office devoted to developing strategic initiatives to expedite their missions will position themselves to address local, state, and national priorities. In this regard, HBCUs should have I call it exciting new academic programs. For example, cybersecurity. Do you know there's only one HBCU that has a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity now? One. That's Grambling State University. They just did this last year. New programs include apprenticeship options, stackable credentials, artificial intelligence, computer programming, gerontology. You can look at my gray hair. We need these programs. Entrepreneurship, transportation, healthcare policy, and yes, international affairs. Every American student enrolled by an HBCU should have an official U.S. passport so they can compete in the global marketplace. We need robust teacher education programs. They should be offered and ramped up again for K-12 teachers of STEM. Most of all, HBCUs must demonstrate a commitment to maintaining a culture of accountability for results that undergirds institutional effectiveness as determined by measurable outcomes. The University of Maryland system should lead the nation's systems in fully utilizing the unique capabilities of their constituent HBCU members. If I may, I'm going to use a naval analogy to make this point. Think about the operation of a carrier battle group, where the University of Maryland College Park, the 1862 land grant, is the formidable flagship aircraft carrier, and where the constituent members of the system represent the vital complementary cruisers, destroyers, and submarines. When the carrier group goes to battle stations to compete against its peers with a compelling strategy for engagement, victory is virtually guaranteed. Developing and implementing a comprehensive strategy to meet the priorities facing the nation and state will make the university the leading system in the nation. I end my presentation by noting this irrefutable fact. If HBCUs did not exist today, there would be a national imperative to create them because they are essential to meeting the needs required to ensure the national security and advance the common good for all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes my presentation.
Well, Dr. Haynes, before I open it up for questions, I'd like to add one more stat to that list you read off at the beginning. 25% of the system institutions are HBCUs. And so when you talk about Maryland in the system, you can add in that 25% are HBCUs.
Yes. Duly noted, duly noted.
Now,
Yes,
are
ma'am.
there questions or for Dr. Haynes by the board members or the president?
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. You mentioned financial figures in Maryland. Were those the latest figures, including the settlement amount, or what's the date of those figures? I forgot the number we indicated, 1% in Maryland.
Right. What I was referring to, the federal government sends money to the United States. Every state gets money from the federal government for a variety of things, Social Security, so forth and so on. Economic development funds, EPA, all of these things come to the state. And the last figures I looked at, I think it was FY19, the state of Maryland was receiving over $16 billion. This is separate and apart from what the system does. This is what the state receives. And look, you have military bases, and so all these things are federal opportunities that come. But when you look down who actually benefits from that, I noted that the four schools, because Morgan's not here, not in this system, were getting but a fraction of that. They were not even considered as participants in that largesse. So that can be changed. By the way, if the state of Maryland issues an executive order, the governor can do this, directing the state agencies to acknowledge the importance of having these assets participate fully in addressing the priorities that are facing the state. It would create favorable conditions for them to grow and prosper. Again, 31 states don't have an HBCU. You're in an envious position. And you should exploit that to your benefit. While I'm standing here, I want to say something about teacher education. I mentioned this before, the STEM. But ladies and gentlemen, less than 5% of the nation's public school teachers are Black. That's an unacceptable number. And if we don't change that in some meaningful way, guess what? The education gap between Blacks and others, it will widen. This pandemic has already demonstrated that the people who suffered the worst were minority communities. My son teaches, or he's an assistant principal at Clarksburg High School in Montgomery County, and he pointed out to me that all the Black students at Clarksburg, their grades fell dramatically because of the virtual delivery system. This is scary if we don't change this, and we need more Black teachers who are effective, especially in the area of mathematics. Mr. Bloomberg gave his album about $150 million to close the graduate gap with physics and so forth at the PhD for Blacks and minorities. I welcome that, I applaud that, but I said in the Washington Post, I wrote the Post a letter about it. That's not the problem. The problem begins at K6. If you can't pass pre-algebra by the grade 6, you can't do math. You're not going to be able to go into a STEM field. So we need more effective mathematic teachers of all kinds. We need them desperately in this country. I know Freeman is shaking his head. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Dr. Haynes, for being here today. It is truly an honor to be in your company once again. I want to applaud you once again on the Partners Act. You went over it a bit, but I think it deserves another mention. This week is HBCU week in Washington, D.C. Typically, we would be there hearing from our legislators and also participating in programs to try and get out in the forefront of agencies, federal agencies, to garner support for our universities. This year, there are virtual programs going on. And for the first time, we are not chasing after the agencies. They are coming to our HBCUs and saying, how can we help? Much of that is owed to your leadership and what you have done to ensure the Partners Act came about that requires those agencies to have a plan, to come to our HBCUs and say, we want to work with you and integrate into our plans how we're going to do that. So I just wanted to underscore your very quick glossary over that point, because had it not been for the passing of the Partners Act, we would not be enjoying new grants coming to our universities, new attention. And so much is owed to your leadership. And I think you deserve a great round of applause for all that you have done.
Thank you very much, President Rowe. And let me underscore this point. So, as I said, President Carter was the first president to issue an executive order, every president since then. And this is good. You know, sometimes the executive orders read like a word salad for those who can't read and comprehend. But we wanted to put some teeth in it. And instead of reports going to the Secretary of Education, who, as you know, is the 13th cabinet officer with little or no juice, we said we wanted the agencies to report to the Congress, because that's where the money comes from. They appropriate the money. So agencies, you have to report on an annual basis now what you are doing for HBCUs. And if you are lacking, a member of Congress can say to the GAO, go find out what the problems are and hold these people accountable. So this is truly significant. And again, The reason we were able to push this goes back to the fact that this is the H. HBCUs are in the federal law. It's a federal designation. It's not a state designation. You are fortunate to have 3. Exploit them to your benefit for the state of Maryland and for the communities where they are located.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Dr. Haynes, I was just wondering if you could clarify one point. You indicated the H in the designation,
Yes,
but doesn't the federal law also designate predominantly Black institutions? It gives them a specific federal designation?
no. The law only designates HBCUs. PBI is a program that was funded by the Congress. The Hispanic Serving Institutions, the HSI, that's a program. And by the way, that's a quota. 25% of your undergraduate students must be of Hispanic origin in order to qualify to get into the program.
But it
is not a federal.
The Higher Education Act
Yes.
does designate certain institutions as
Only the
predominantly Black institutions.
No, it's only the HBCU. There is a program in HEOA for PBIs, for HSIs, but the H is the only federal designation that we have. Make that clear. Go read the act. It's clear. And we've not really, let's be honest, some of my colleagues who are HBCU presidents, I keep telling them, you have a gem in your hands. No one can raise a question about your existence. You are in the law.
Freeman?
Right. Let me, first of all, thank you, Leonard, for the years that you've given this and for having a father who was an HBCU president. It's interesting, adding to the statistics, 3 of the USM presidents are graduates of HBCUs, of my beloved Hampton. 2 of our board members are graduates of HBCU Southern and Tougaloo. So we've got some street creds in this area. This is what I would say, and Leonard, you'll appreciate the spirit in which I say this. Yes, we should be highlighting the significance, the historical and the future significance of HBCUs. I think the system should be doing whatever we can to be supportive of our colleagues there, but we should also look at the larger picture of African-American students. Yeah. We take it, some states just kind of point to the HBCUs and say, that's where the Black students are.
Right.
All right. And I don't think that's good. I think it's wonderful for them to have that option, but we are healthier in that our institutions across the system take great pride in the numbers of African-Americans that we have. And I think as a system board, we should be doing both things, supporting those HBCUs, yes, but highlighting what the other institutions are doing and saying what else all of us should be doing. For example, we do need more Black teachers. Yes. It's going to take all of us to do that. We need more Black physicians and scientists. And so I think what the system can do, and through the board, is to specifically say, what are we doing now? Where do we need to go? What role should the HBCUs play? What role should the rest of us play? And so, and I want us, it's the genius of the and versus the tyranny of the or. You know the spirit in which I'm saying this.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. It is a collective responsibility, yes, to improve the quality of education across the board.
Yes. Yes.
One of the sad things I've noticed as I get a little older, we have too many of our citizens in this country who refuse to place a high value on the importance of getting a good education. Yeah. Yeah. I run into too many of the people, and I wonder, how are we going to survive if we don't improve? We are in competition, ladies and gentlemen. We are not the only game in town. Yes. Our future depends on a well-educated citizenry, period.
That's right. That's right.
People who have intellectual curiosity and who are willing to do the rigor and make the sacrifice to be the best. I said to a group the other day, no one should start the season playing for last place. That's not why you practice. That's not why you read. That's not what you do. Somehow we have lost our competitive edge in the average citizen. I taught for the John Glenn College of Public Affairs 2 years ago here in Washington. 16 extremely bright students were in my class. They're some of the best that OSU produces. But the thing that struck me, they had a sense of entitlement. They hadn't written a paper over 10 pages. They were soccer aficionados who received trophies for participation. Everybody gets a trophy, which means we must all be great. So when 4 of the students earned a C, the dean called me from Columbus. And I said, Dean, let me be honest with you. I was generous with the C. They can't write their way out of a paper bag. And then he said, Dr. Haynes, this is the problem at Ohio State University today. Most of our undergraduate students have not written, they don't write very well. We have a writing building where they're supposed to go to. We must be better at what we do. So for the University of Columbus to say that, I know it's a problem across the nation. And by the way, and Freeman knows this very well, if the foreign national students who are in our graduate STEM programs decide to leave and go home, we've got a problem. There are no American students to take their place. We're not generating sufficient numbers to go into the pool. It's a collective responsibility. You know, I love this country because it's given me opportunity to be the best. And we should instill that in everybody that we come across.
May I ask that when you go to other states, you let them know you've not been to a system that is more diverse
Absolutely.
than that of Maryland.
Well,
From the HBCUs to the board members and others, make sure you send that mail. Good news here, you have to push it. You know.
well, that's why I said, you know, and I use my naval analogy. You have the opportunity to be the best system in the United States. You know, North Carolina wants to make that claim, but just looking around this table, I said, there's hope. You can do this. You're located right in the nexus of where all the money comes, right next door to Washington. When Britt Carroll was the chancellor of the system, I said to him, when I was in Washington working, and to my surprise, you don't read a lot about the University of Maryland system in the Washington Post. It's almost like it's an invisible set of institutions in this state. That should not be the case. You should exploit your presence to your benefit. People should be knocking on your doors to come here because you have outstanding faculty, have outstanding research, you've done public service. But ladies and gentlemen, it's still one of the best kept secrets in this Mid-Atlantic region.
Dr. Haynes, when you look over the horizon for HBCUs and with the census that just came out,
Yes.
much like Freeman referred to the fact that all of our schools are open and supporting everyone. Do you see HBCUs becoming more diverse over time?
Yes, absolutely. You know, the doors are open. By the way, the students march with their feet.
Mhm.
Remember, federal aid goes to the student, not to the institution.
Right.
So if you can create a competitive atmosphere, come here, because as I said to all the presidents, you have put on your website and you have to ask yourself, why should anybody want to enroll in your institution when there are choices?
Mhm.
You need to present yourself as a viable option to get a good education. And it's important to have a good teaching faculty, good support systems, and you want to be competitive at all times. That's as a president, when I was at Grambling, they had a saying where everybody is somebody. Well, that was a little moniker. Ike knows about that. And I said, no, that's the wrong thing. You come here, you got to compete. You're not the same. I want good students like everybody else. so they can set an example for others to rise up to that level. I don't want to lower any standard. I want to be the best. We've got to demand excellence out of our people. My wife retired from Montgomery County Schools in 2014. And one of the reasons why we retired because Montgomery County changed the rules, Ike, at the MCPS. What it said was, if a student signs an examination, they get 50%. Mary said, that's it, I'm done. That sends the wrong message. And Montgomery County prides itself on having one of the 10 best school systems in the country. We can't afford not to have rigor and sacrifice to be the best. We just can't. I'm a product of segregated schools. I didn't go to school with whites until I got to Carnegie Mellon University in American history. After the first set of exams, I had A's. I called my dad. He said, son, I told you, you were taught well. You could read. You had curiosity about the world. I expected you to do well. I would not trade that segregated education for anything in the world. Now that I look at what's going on right now, we need a commitment to excellence. Freeman knows what I'm talking about.
Any other, Michelle?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Dr. Haynes. Appreciate your commentary this morning. I'm Michelle Gordine. I am a graduate of Tougaloo College.
Yes.
I am now a physician here in the state of Maryland and a proud member of the Board of Regents since 2015. I want to ask you, based on what you have said, whether or not you believe there is a special responsibility that those of us who are alums of HBCUs have to continue to advocate for the importance of HBCUs. As you know, there are often questions regarding whether or not HBCUs are still relevant and what their importance is. I believe all of us, and there are many, many of us who are products of HBCUs, and imagine what this country would be like if we were not trained at those HBCUs. What additional responsibility and opportunity do we have as alum to continue to advocate for these important institutions that we have not yet completely taken advantage of?
I think one of the first things you have to do as an alumnus is to demand of your institutional leadership that they be the best. Because you represent them. Don't take anything less than that. I believe in accountability for results. And I want to think one of the weaknesses in some of our HBCUs, there's not a commitment to that. It's not rocket science. I can walk on the campus and tell you if things are going right by looking the way the campus looks. Yes, it's a limited resource environment. I get all that. I worked at one. But as president of Grambling, I walked around and picked up trash just like the janitors. I had no shame, because I was trying to make a point. This is our institution that has to look the best. So an alumnus has to demand that and to make contributions with an assessment. Say, well, listen, you're getting this money because I want you to use it to make this institution better than what it is. Strategy is what's needed at institutions. A compelling strategy to expedite the mission. And I find that some of our leadership and some of the governing boards, it certainly not applies to you because you have an excellent situation here. But we have some of our schools who are run like personal fiefdoms. I know of cases where religious oriented institutions are dominated. Sometimes the bishops of the church or the chairman of the board, and they think the school's an extension of their right hand. We can't do that. Some of these things are self-inflicted wounds. Yes, I am always believe we'll have to advocate. I do that, but you should not feel overburdened with that because accountability for results should be the focus of everybody's institution, to be quite honest. We live in an environment where you just can't afford not to do your best. That's all I feel. I feel that way.
Well, I think that's an important note to end our discussion. And I want to thank you, Dr. Haynes, for a very interesting talk this morning. And hopefully you will have some takeaways from the University System of Maryland that you can add into your
Yes.
discussions when you're out on the road.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
We'll now have the Chancellor's report. The written report is in your materials. Senior Vice Chancellor Joe Boffman will deliver the Chancellor's report. The chairs of the shared governance councils will follow.
Thank you very much, Chair Gooden. It's an honor to fill in for Chancellor Perman today. And it's wonderful to be back in one room with all of us together because of the hard work of the entire University System of Maryland community. Reunions like this one are taking place on our campuses across the state. I'd like to thank President Fowler for hosting us here at UMGC and for letting us hear from Ms. Warner. It was truly inspiring. And I congratulate all of the university's pillars of strength scholarship. It's terrific. I'd like to thank Dr. Haynes as well for his presentation. It's clear that the country's HBCUs are having a moment right now, but it's our job to make sure that this isn't just a moment. With your context and challenge, it's obvious that we still have a lot of work to do, and we will get busy doing it. And finally, I join Chair Gooden in congratulating President Frabowski on 30 incredible years at UMBC. I remember that I was a vice president and dean at UMBC when you ascended to the presidency. We go back a long way, and along with everybody else, I'm really looking forward to this year of celebration of your incredible leadership. Thank you, Freeman. It's a particular honor to congratulate the system's brand new Elkins professors. Dr. Pat Gallupo, president of psychology at Towson University. Dr. Radi Masri with the School of Dentistry at the University of Maryland, Baltimore. Dr. Heather Congdon, co-director of the UMB Center for Interprofessional Education. Dr. Laura Harris with the Chesapeake Biological Laboratory at UMCS, and our returning Elkins professor, Dr. Don DeVoe with the Department of Mechanical Engineering at UMCP. Later this month, we'll provide a summary announcement of the important scholarship that these individuals are contributing to our system. Before I go on to sing some praises of our universities and their accomplishments over the last couple of months, I think it's important to acknowledge that tomorrow marks the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It was a day that changed our lives forever. For some, that change was irrevocable, heartbreaking. We honor the sacrifices that so many made that day and subsequently in the last 20 years. And we rededicate ourselves today to our mission of education, illumination, and connection. Higher education has a central role to play in forging understanding across countries and cultures. And it's one we undertake with both purpose and passion. We typically consider summer downtime in education, but you never know it given some of the things that I'll be telling you that have happened in just the last couple of months. I'll provide a high-level overview, and as Chair Gooden has said, you can read the entire report and be as proud as I am when you read that. Our universities continue their impressive growth. A few weeks ago, the ribbon was cut at Bowie State's Entrepreneurship Living Learning Community, a gorgeous building that I nearly drove off the road when I went to Bowie for the first time. There was no building there, and now there's a huge edifice. Creating an environment where innovation and collaboration can thrive, where student startups can be supported, and where an entrepreneurial mindset can be nurtured across the entire campus. At Towson University, ground was broken on the College of Health Professions building, finally. And this new building, slated to open in 2024, will consolidate under one roof the school's health programs, including audiology, nursing, speech language pathology, occupational therapy, and health sciences. College Park broke ground on its new chemistry building, which will include 34 research labs, 2 core research facilities, and more than 30,000 square feet of workspace for collaboration. Next month, Chancellor Perman and I will join a host of VIPs for the grand opening of what we're calling the SMART building at USM at Southern Maryland. USM Executive Director Eileen Abel says that the new building is a state-of-the-art research facility, yes, but also a way to fundamentally rethink higher education in Southern Maryland. Our universities also celebrated new programs and initiatives. Earlier this week, UMES and NASA signed the Space Act agreement to build a pipeline of diverse STEM talent working at NASA's Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia to carry out a range of R&D projects at Wallops, including those in suborbital and aeronautical science. UMES, down on the tip of the Eastern Shore in Frostburg, out in Western Maryland, unveiled a partnership that offers an accelerated track to a Doctor of Pharmacy degree. Students participating in this cooperative program can reduce time to that pharmacy degree by up to 2 years because of this partnership. Over the summer, Governor Hogan announced the launch of the Maryland Institute for Innovative Computing at UMGC, addressing challenges related to computing and analytics with an emphasis on cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and data science. UMBC also joined the University Innovation Alliance, a select consortium of public research universities that boost student success by sharing and scaling approaches that work. UMBC was one of only 2 universities asked to join this network since its founding in 2014. A new 5-year Department of Defense contract was won by UMGC, will provide education to our troops on military installations in the Middle East, North Africa, and in other downrange locations. And I congratulate Dr. Fowler and his team on UMGC's #1 national ranking in IT master's degrees awarded to students of color. Last month, the NSF announced that it's establishing 5 I-Core hubs to scale up the National Innovation Network and provide experiential entrepreneurship training to academic researchers across all fields of science and engineering. The Mid-Atlantic Hub will be at College Park, funded at $15 million over 5 years. And just this week, College Park announced a $20 million partnership with quantum computing startup IonQ to create the National Quantum Lab at Maryland, or the Q Lab that we will be hearing much more about in the future. Coppin State will receive $300,000 over these years from the PNC Foundation to support programs sponsored by CSU's College of Business. Programs that focus on nurturing small businesses and entrepreneurial activity in underserved communities, as well as programs that provide direct services to West Baltimore public school students. In June, Salisbury University announced the William Church and Joan Washburn Endowment for Equity, Justice, and Inclusion. The planned endowment, expected to be over $1 million, will support its namesake's dedication to LGBTQ community by funding programs that address issues important to its members. And last month, Governor Hogan appointed 3 UB School of Law alumni to judgeships across the state. Incredibly, and many of you may not know this, more than 1/3 of the state's judges are graduates of UB Law. The Greenabout Comprehensive Cancer Center, UMB's close clinical partner, has once again received the highest designation from the National Cancer Institute, placing it in the top echelon of cancer centers nationwide. And the universities at Shady Grove welcomed Montgomery County's public school students to its biomedical sciences and engineering building for a STEM summer program. Thousands of elementary and middle schoolers took part in this program. USG also hosted this summer a signing of a life sciences education and innovation partnership among Montgomery County, Montgomery College, and the USM. This agreement facilitates research collaboration between the academic partners and industry leaders, and gives students across Maryland opportunities to gain work and R&D experience with the country's science and technology companies. The USM's people continue to rack up impressive recognitions as well. President Biden has announced Dr. Lori Lacasio, Vice President for Research at UMB in College Park, to lead the National Institute of Standards and Technology. We look forward to that confirmation. 3 UMC students have been named finalists for the prestigious John A. Knaus Marine Policy Fellowship, sponsored by Sea Grant and NOAA. Anna Sosa, Amber Fandel, and Ben Frey will be placed in a government organization for 1 year, helping steer national coastal marine science policy. At UMES, chemistry professor Victoria Volkas received $1 million from the Navy to work with students addressing biofilm formation, which causes millions of dollars in damage to naval ships. The Daily Record named Bowie President Amin Tabro and Towson President Kim Schatzel in its list of influential Marylanders. And once again, the USM was well represented among this year's class of Newman Civic Fellows, which recognizes community-minded students. This year's honorees are Delaney Blueboff from Frostburg, Daniel Koshkapai from UB, and Tommy Fashola from UMES, and Faith Davis from UMBC. I have the opportunity to work directly with these students, and let me tell you, they are awesome. In just a few days, Frostburg will launch its Forging Futures Capital campaign, a $25 million fundraising effort. Campaign will focus on forging the future of Frostburg students, the future of the university itself, and the future of Western Maryland and beyond. Tonight, I will be able to join the folks at USM Hagerstown as we announce the 22 students from partner institutions at USMH who have received scholarships this academic year. And USMH annual Spirit Run, which benefits that scholarship fund, returns as an in-person event this year, although you can still compete virtually, which is the way I'm going to do it. I should note that Salisbury Seagull Century Ride, it's a bike ride of 100 miles, returning as an in-person event as well. Mark your calendars for Saturday, October 9th. I will be doing that one virtually as well. Bowie State and Coppin State have committed to using federal CARES Act funding to relieve students of millions of dollars in outstanding tuition and loan debt. Bowie will provide $3 million in relief, and Coppin is committed to clear $1 million to these student balances. And finally, over the summer, the USM's Maryland Momentum Fund made 3 important investments in big innovations coming out of the USM. In Verilox Therapeutics, a biotech company launched by UMB alumnus Jeff Strovel that's developing small molecule therapeutics. In Liatris Inc., co-founded by College Park adjunct professor Arthur Yang, that's developing advanced thermal insulation materials. In Aqualith, based on the work of College Park professor Chung-Shen Wang, that's developing a cheaper, safer, and higher density lithium battery, which we all will be looking forward to. Our success with the Maryland Momentum Fund, our success in company creation and business partnerships are all a credit to Tom Sadowski, the former Vice Chancellor for Economic Development. Tom has newly become the Executive Director of the Maryland Economic Development Corporation, and we're excited to continue our relationship with him in that new role. I can't end my report without expressing how happy we are to welcome back our students this fall to actual campus interactions. Among university systems nationwide, we are in an admirable and even enviable position. We have a very high compliance rate for vaccination across the system, with most of our universities recording rates between 94 and 98% so far. The universities are all working toward that 100% goal, meaning that every individual will be either vaccinated or authorized with an exemption. Many institutions have on-campus vaccination clinics and are all housing vaccination days. bringing in personnel and mobile units when necessary to provide easy access to vaccination doses. I'd like to give College Park as an example. That university's compliance rate today stands at 97.7%. What that means is that among students, fewer than 300 are out of compliance. They either are not yet fully vaccinated or have an exemption. That's fewer than 300 in more than 39,000 students on the College Park campus. And a good portion of that 300 are actually international students who have come to us unvaccinated and are in the process of becoming fully vaccinated, but we can't put them in the win column quite yet. That's an incredible kind of effort that has led to that level of success. For unvaccinated populations, including those with authorized waivers, all campuses are conducting testing at least weekly, and most require many of them require daily symptom monitoring. Of course, all universities are testing anyone who's symptomatic and anyone who's captured in a contact tracing process. We can see that vaccination is paying off. We have a very low positivity rate across the system, in fact, under 1%, given all of the testing upon re-arrival to the campus, far lower than the state or national averages. Essentially, we're doing exactly what the pandemic playbook says we should be doing, ensuring that we have a highly vaccinated population, verifying that vaccination status, requiring rapid and frequent testing for the unvaccinated, and improving indoor air quality over the summer, using masking when needed. And I should add that masking is indeed needed right now, except for certain exceptions when you are vaccinated and have tested negative. All institutions are following CDC guidelines. In classrooms, labs, and study spaces, students will remain masked. The truth is, we hoped we'd be in a better position right now, but Delta changed all that, even on a highly vaccinated campus. So our COVID work group will continue to meet. They will actually be meeting at noon today. This is a work group of university experts that will remain active all year to continue to provide the system and university leadership with the best evidence-based advice. We'll continue those meetings with university presidents and regional center directors to share challenges and approaches that work. And we'll continue to be guided by public health guidelines. We like to say that we all have learned that we need to work together to be together, and that's really important. And I can tell you that our students want exactly to do that, to be together in classrooms and on campuses. The last thing I'd like to say is to take the opportunity on behalf of the 200,000 plus people in the university system of Maryland to congratulate Chancellor Jay Perman and Board Chair Linda Gooden on being inducted last night into the Baltimore Sun's Hall of Fame for Business and Civic Hall of Fame. Congratulations. We all sincerely appreciate your transformational leadership, and that concludes the report.
Thanks, Joe. And it seems we're in the safest place, because if we have a 1% positivity rate on campuses and a 4% in the state, we should just stay here. So great.
That's actually one of the bragging points we often use, that our campuses are among the safest places to be in Maryland and across the country.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so I do want to say that Chairwoman Gooden represented the system superbly last night. And she also read for the Chancellor. And it's so important in Baltimore for people to appreciate the system and what it does. And to have the presidents here from College Park to Towson to Coppin, all of that. Our former mayor appreciates the significance of Baltimore and of the system being represented. The other point to Joe, though, I think it's significant that Joe is a scientist and brings that along with Bruce, UMB, and Jay to help us through this crisis. Can we give them a round of applause for what they've done?
Now we'll have the Council of University System Faculty report, Dr. Brune.
Chair Gooden, Regents, presidents, and all of our guests here today. I want to thank you. This is my first in-person presentation. So that's exciting. And I'm sitting next to my boss, President Fowler, who I also haven't met in person either. So that's exciting. I would like to make one other personal remark, and that is that on behalf of the faculty, Dr. Haynes is leaving, but I want to say he echoes a great deal of what the faculty feel in today's world. So I want to applaud him. And I also want to say it's exciting for me to see our student Lauren Warren, because she's one of mine. So that's exciting. On behalf of the council, we have not had our first meeting yet. So the report that you have in front of you is pretty much summarizes what we're going to be doing this year. The Ed Policy Committee's subcommittees on academic integrity will be expanding because of the USM work group, who will be taking over the policy concepts that we started to investigate last year. And our actual subcommittee will be working with the students this year to look at how we can explore academic integrity and create a culture of academic value on our campuses. Our IPE and civic engagement programs are going to be working with Dr. Shapiro to create a work white paper that will explain and explore all of the various programs that the system has in place right now, and where we can exchange them and partner with everyone. So that's the Economic Ed Policy Committee. The Faculty's Affairs Committee is going to continue in their exploration of technology, cyber issues that we have with for our faculty and students. We also will be looking at the intellectual property issues related to online learning. So that's probably the newest part of what they're going to be looking at this year. Structural Inequities Committee are beginning to plan their topics. I've already roped in President Rabowski before he leaves this morning. I roped him in because he's been on my case about curriculum, looking at curriculum, refreshing it, working with it, and all of that. So I want to rope him in. One of the things we are going to have is an Oxford type debate on one of these, a very interesting topic, but I'm not going to give it away yet. Okay, so we want to implore his assistance in that. And we're going to have a student, faculty, and we'll have a president. So it should be an interesting webinar. We will be meeting virtually through the fall. And then we hope to do hybrid sessions going forward after that. The Legislative Affairs Committee that we have will begin exploring educational issues. They weren't terribly active last year, but we're hoping they'll be more active this year. And finally, the newest thing is that the Executive Committee has been very concerned about the continuity of shared governance in terms of our actual CUSIV structure. And we're going to be making some changes. One is to explore the idea of the chair having a 2-year term as opposed to a 1-year term, which we think is pretty important. But the other thing is we're going to be looking at topics, conversations that we want to have. And as you can see, it takes time to develop information. And since we are faculty members and have a day job, it's one of those things where it takes more time to execute what we hope to get done. So one of the things the Executive Committee has decided is that we will be starting in October, not in their September meeting, but starting in October, we will be using 10 or 15 minutes of our time to introduce new topics that potentially at the end of the year, the succeeding committees will take up and work on. Some of the things we're going to be focused on for this year is the future of education. We want to talk about things like the future of a degree. Corporations like Etsy are not interested in degrees anymore. So that's something we want to look at. We're going to look at things like net neutrality, which is an old issue, but now that we have a new president, maybe we can, if you've done a Google search lately, the first 2 pages are all ads. And that's a problem, especially since one of the other topics that goes along with it is the idea of how do we teach our students to use the internet as a tool? And it's not just social media. So I think that just goes across the board. One of the things that was mentioned to us just recently by faculty members is that I'm tired of putting reading into a classroom only to have the first thing that comes up the student does is a Google search. So we want them to read what we're asking them to read. So these are the kinds of topics we'll be exploring, and also artificial intelligence, non-fungibles, things of that nature. So we're going to try to produce all that information out there, and hopefully they'll pick up 1 or 2 or 3 topics and see this is something that CUSIP could really explore. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brune. We now have the Council of University System Staff, and Dr. Shoshana is there and ready.
Yeah, good morning, Chair Gooden, members of the board, presidents. I am very excited to be back with all of you in person instead of seeing the little Hollywood squares from my living room. So yes, it is nice to see everybody. I am going to share just a few quick highlights from our report, but before I do that, I did want to thank the board for taking time out of the morning this meeting to recognize our Board of Regents Staff Awards winners and their amazing contributions to their campuses. We also have several honorable mentions that we'll be sending out to the presidents in the next week or so. So thank you so much for recognizing those folks. And we are very excited to continue that process. We're already starting to ramp up for the next cycle of the awards process. And then secondly, I would also like to just coming from UMBC, just take a minute to recognize Dr. Hrabowski. One of the things that has been critical to my professional experience in higher education has been my time at UMBC for the last 12 years. And Freeman's dedication to shared governance at our campus is unparalleled. I would not be standing here in front of all of you today if it wasn't for his support and leadership. And I am equal parts excited for the celebrations that are to come, but also saddened by the idea of being at UMBC without Dr. Hrabowski, but he will always be there. I was joking this morning that we need to have 71 celebrations. So I'm going to put that out there, or 30 celebrations. So we're giving him a choice of how many he wants to have. But I just wanted to take a moment to thank him for his commitment to shared governance. And that has been a huge part of my development as a young professional. So with that, I want to just highlight a few things from my report. Similar to CUSIP, we met in August, but we really are jumping into our action plan at our meeting next week. So I do not have a ton of tangible updates, but I will by the next board meeting. I did want to highlight a few things though. So one, we have elected our executive committee for the upcoming year, and it feels a little bit like deja vu, but once again, we have a lot of the same members coming back to our executive team. I like to think that that means they really enjoy the experience of being leadership members for our council, but I'm returning for my third and final, I'm putting it out there again, third and final year as the chair of CUS. Dr. Kalia Patricio is returning as our vice chair from the University of Maryland College Park. We also have Lisa Gray from Salisbury University returning as our past chair. Lisa just keeps getting dragged into it because we keep coming back. So I think she is excited when we say this is our final year. And then we have Carol Green Willis from Towson and Susan Holt from UMB serving as our co-secretaries. We do have 2 new members of our executive committee this year. So we elected 2 members at large at our August meeting. One from our host institution, John Thompson here from UMGC, and Vonzella McQueen from Bowie State. So we're very excited to welcome those 2 members in addition to the 5 of us that are returning to the executive team. And we are really going to be thinking this year about continuity for our leadership, knowing that several of us will, I'm really putting it out there in the universe this time, will be moving on from the executive committee next year. So we are going to spend a lot of time. One of our goals is to figure out a pipeline to our leadership positions to make sure that folks are shadowing us and learning and jumping into those positions prepared as we face a transition that we haven't had in the last 3 years. One other little detail for our council, we are piloting a new structure to our standing committees. So we are still working within our constitution and bylaws covering the same committee work, but we are only going to have 4 standing committees this year instead of 5. So our executive committee, of course, and then we'll actually be piloting a new awards and outreach committee that's combining our Board of Regents Staff Awards Committee with our communications and marketing team so that we can really focus on outreach to staff, recognition of staff, and how we get the word out to our campuses about opportunities, leadership experiences, recognition, all of that. Our legislative and policy committee will still be in place. However, they are taking on an additional responsibility of looking at USM policies that impact staff and doing a deeper dive into understanding those policies and being more tuned into what's happening at the system level in terms of policies and implications for staff. And then lastly, we are just ramping up our benefits and compensation committee to serve more as a staff resources and special projects group. So we every year that committee does more than just look at benefits and compensation. So we want to recognize that work and have that committee also pick up anything that comes up throughout the year in terms of special projects. So we're already thinking, one example is that they'll be focusing on the hybrid work environment and the impact that that has on staff and the flexibility that that gives staff and how we continue to explore that topic as we transition back to in-person, hybrid, virtual work, whatever that looks like. The last thing I want to share, 2 things. One is we are working on an action plan for the first time ever. Our committees have always set goals, but this year our executive committee had a little mini retreat, and we are going to bring those goals back together into a thorough action plan for our committee, for our council to try to be more proactive this year with what we actually want to accomplish. So I look forward to presenting that action plan at the next board meeting when we finalize it next week. And then last but not least in my report is our full meeting schedule for the 2021-2022 academic cycle. We are planning to continue to meet virtually. For us, for staff, this has increased our participation in council meetings immensely for folks to have the ability to just hop on to our meetings every month. We even have members from the campuses hop on that don't serve on the council. So it's really expanded our scope in terms of reaching staff. Of course, at some point, we'd like to explore hybrid opportunities and possibly fully in person, but we don't want to lose what we've gained from being able to do those meetings virtually. One little highlight from the schedule, we will be hosting our joint council meeting with CUSIF and the Student Council in November. We are looking forward to that. The 3 of us have met, the 3 chairs have met, and we plan to meet on a quarterly basis again. We started doing that last year, and I think that was really beneficial to collaboration across our 3 councils. So we'll have that joint meeting in November. And we look forward to hosting Chair Gooden as well as the Chancellor at that joint meeting. I believe those are my major highlights. I am happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Lila? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now have the Council of University System Presidents, Dr. Bro.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Chair Gooden, and greetings to all of our regents and welcome to our new regents. It's good to see you, Senator Peters, Ayatollah, and all of our new regents. We look forward to getting to know you better and welcome. Before I begin my remarks, I too have to add remarks in the announcement, with the announcement of President Frabowski retirement, with his retirement. It's hard to find the words. And yes, I know it's been 30 years, but I thought we were just getting started here. President Frabowski, I know I speak on behalf of the Council of University System Presidents when I offer my heartfelt thank you, and well-deserved thank you, and well wishes. You have been an outspoken, staunch advocate for higher education, an amazing cheerleader for students, a passionate leader, a mentor, and a dear colleague. And so at this time, I'm going to ask the Council of University System Presidents, would you please stand and let's recognize our colleague.
Be here a little longer, right?
Thank you. There's only 31 or 71 more to go. Okay. As I begin my remarks today, and I will point you to the report in your materials, but as I begin today, I'm going to be brief. But in consideration of all of the tremendous and remarkable effort that transpired on our campuses since we last met, my brevity is no reflection of what you heard reported from Dr. Balfman. You've heard about countless examples of excellence on each and every one of our campuses. And each of our university and regional centers could provide additional numerous examples of the extraordinary work over these last several months by committed faculty, staff, and students to ensure our universities were prepared to deliver on our promise of access and affordability to a quality education. At the top of the list remains safety first for each of our campuses. And so I begin my report with acknowledging and thanking everyone on the respective campuses across our system institutions for their contributions to the start of a fall semester. The Council of University System Presidents continues to convene bi-weekly and on the first Monday of the month to address issues related to the COVID-19 pandemic, in addition to other system-wide matters. Since its June report to the board, CUSP met on the following dates: July 14th, the 28th, August 2nd, the 11th, and August 25th. The written report in your materials highlights the content of our CUSP meetings, bi-weekly meetings on COVID-19, and Chancellor's Council meetings. These meetings continue to focus heavily on COVID-19 and associated procedures and protocols. The Chancellor and the President's continued discussions about preparations to return to campus in the fall. And these discussions included reviews of the latest science and data to help guide numerous decisions and update mass guidance in the COVID-19 dashboards. Additional topics discussed at CUSP and the Chancellor's Council meetings included revisions to the Board of Regents bylaws, a discussion of student debt, and the USM's fiscal year 23 budget request. This now concludes my report, and I thank you for all of your support, Chair Gooden, and all of our regents as we get underway. And I indeed am so thrilled to be here in person. We were saying earlier at the beginning of the meeting, some of the presidents, we were sharing what's happening on our campuses, and there is exuberance on our campuses. There are smiling faces. Students are so very happy to return to in-person learning. And so I thank you for all the support you have given to us, and let's get underway for another academic year. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Brett. Our last council president is Student Council, and I believe Ms. Harper is joining us via Zoom. Here she is.
Hello. Can everyone-
Hello.
Hi, can everyone see me and hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm sorry I could not be there today. I had knee surgery and I was advised by the doctor that I could not drive. So I'll give my report via Zoom. Good morning, Chair Goodman, presidents, members of the board. So We have not met yet. The student representatives will have their first meeting on Sunday, September the 12th, and we're ready. We're ready to get started. Dr. Shapiro will join us to talk about civil engagement. Where do we go next as far as COVID? And we will have our meetings virtual for the fall semester. Given that the Delta variant kind of put us in a situation where we're really not sure, but I do think the USM, they did a great job with making us feel comfortable. I was on campus yesterday for the first time. I go to the University of Baltimore. Thank you, President Schmook. The campus felt very safe. Like I felt like I felt very safe going to campus yesterday. So I felt that we are moving in the right direction. But if I can just give a few updates, if I could back up a second, I'm sorry. So I'm Yvonne Harper. I am the incoming president for the University System Student Council. I have two gentlemen that will be my vice president, and that is Arsalan Siddiqui, who attend the University of Maryland College Park. He's an undergraduate, he's undergraduate affairs president. And then we have Stephen Jenkins, who also attend the University of Baltimore. He's the graduate affairs president. So the discussion around civil engagement on Sunday, this Sunday coming, I'm so sorry. This Sunday coming will be with Nancy Shapiro, and then we will kind of transition into just the roles of what the council is. And I kind of want to make sure that everyone understands what our system does and what we want to make sure we understand it, and we understand where we stand in our system. So we understand that we don't work against each other when we come to the council. It's not, hey, we're making complaints. It's more of how do we work together in collaborative ways. And then we've been building towards our board of directors. So our board of directors for our council is broken up into fours: government relations, student affairs, communications, and diversity and inclusion. So we've been building towards that throughout the summer with the executive board. And then I think that's all we have for right now. I'm sorry. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's now time for public comment. As you know, all regularly scheduled meetings of the Board of Regents will include a period for public comment. We've set aside 15 minutes for this purpose. We've received no comments for this session. However, most of you saw when you came in that you had a new book at your location, most of the regents. And so I'm going to ask their vice chair to talk a bit about why we have this. Hit the little speaker guy. Yep, you're on.
Alan?
You're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought everybody deserved a go back to school gift. And so I got my hands on several cases of the latest book about our beloved State House. I think Senator Peters and Vice Chancellor Hogan will tell you that it's an honor to serve in the General Assembly. It truly is. But to be able to do your time in that hallowed building is really over the top. This is a good time to visit our State House. Last night, David Rubenstein, you may remember he's the head of the Carlisle Group, and he did little things like buy the Magna Carta and fix the Washington Monument and some other things. Well, he left some of his documents in the State House, and they're on display in the rotunda. So you'll be able to see those documents. You'll be able to see Washington's handwritten copy of his resignation address, which we acquired some time ago. You'll be able to see the 6 portraits of the Lords Baltimore and everything else the State House has to offer. All you need is a mask and an ID. And I would recommend that you go see it. Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to reflect a moment on the job that these presidents did in making the campuses safe. Early action by this board and the extraordinary work of the presidents and their staffs to get the environment ready for students to go back, in my opinion, was extraordinary, if not heroic. And I'm heartsick that the rest of our country and parts of our state have not done so well. And maybe really what we ought to do is we ought to share what we've learned with others as they struggle, because I think what you all have done has been magnificent. Thank you for the opportunity.
The next order of business is the consent agenda. Decisions regarding which items to include on the consent agenda were made by me and the committee chairs. However, any regent may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda for separate review and discussion. Before I move approval of the consent agenda, I ask if there are any items that any regent would like removed from the consent agenda for separate review and discussion. Seeing none, I move approval. Can I get a second? Any abstentions? Any in opposition? Hearing none, can I, all in favor say?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. The next are our committee reports, and we'll start with Regent Atman and the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just preliminarily, I'd like to say how great it is to be together and to see our wonderful presidents, the regents, the great team assembled in this room. It's great, you know, Zoom is effective, but it's really, really nice to be in person. Secondly, I'd like to wish Happy New Year to all of the members of our Jewish community in the USM, and wish them a healthy and happy and a sweet year. I'd also like to join, I was going to say something about Freeman, but he left. So anyway, I was going to say, and I will say that Freeman is a great leader, but he's also a fantastic financial manager. And from the vantage point of the Finance Committee, we've always appreciated that. So now turning to the item at hand, it relates to Towson University. So, you know, we're asked by the chair occasionally to take an item off of the consent agenda that would illustrate a point. And I selected this item because I thought it was an excellent example of effectiveness and efficiency, which is a hallmark of our university system of Maryland. Some of you may recall a number of years ago when Towson University acquired an office building at 7400 York Road, just south of the campus. And this item relates to the university's intent to renovate and adapt the space from general office use to instructional, clinical, and research space. Specifically, it will be used for things like the Occupational Therapy Center, a Center for Adults with Autism, Speech and Language Center, Hearing and Balance Center. And these are services that service our surrounding community, but also allow our students to learn in real-time experiences. So the cost of the renovation, that also includes some work of the university's administration, but the total cost, including a healthy contingency, is about $14.5 million. This will save the university rent that they are currently paying under their, or that they would otherwise pay under their current lease, of $17.4 million. So this is a $3 million savings. And again, a great example of effectiveness and efficiency. And this has been done many times, I must say, by President Schatzel and her team. They look for ways to own rather than to lease, and to be excellent stewards of our financial resources. So I know the Regents appreciate that. The cost of the refurbishment will be paid for using institutional cash. And one other thing is that although often these construction projects are built by our UMB Construction Management Service Center, in this case, Towson University will be delegated the management of the renovation project, which will also generate additional savings. So I think it's an excellent project. I'll move for the approval of it. And if there's a second. Any discussion? President Schatzel, you want to say anything?
I just want to thank you for, offering the acknowledgement for this. But I think as all the presidents would say, we don't get the credit. It's the teams that we have on the campuses. And Ben Lowenthal, our vice president of admin and finance, is here, and this is complex to be able to deal with. There's lots of dominoes over the year that we managed. And then Terrence McCann, who's in charge of making the management of the facilities, is here as well. So I just want to make sure that I acknowledge both of them and say that's where the credit belongs.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, gentlemen. All right, the motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Our next report is.
Our next report is governance and compensation, and Regent Wood will present that report.
Good morning. I'd like to also welcome our new regents. We look forward to working with you. I'm very excited about the opportunity to do that. We have 4 terrific new regents. I also would like to join in the accolades to Freeman. Freeman is such a special person, and to know him has been a welcome and special opportunity for me. I'd also like finally to join in Bobby Neal's comments regarding the presidential responses to the COVID issues on your campuses. Thank you so much for doing such a terrific job in protecting our students. Bob Rao is chairman of the Governance and Compensation Committee, and he had an unavoidable conflict and has asked me to make his presentation for him today. We have 2 bylaw changes or revisions that are here for action. These provisions can be found in the board agenda on pages 7, 8, and 9 of the board materials immediately after the bylaws themselves. The first revision makes a student regent eligible for in-state tuition waiver for 2 semesters of undergraduate tuition in the second year of a 2-year term. And as we know, historically, student regents have served non-voting terms of 1 year. However, due to a recent change in the bylaws, they now serve for 2 years and can vote in the second year. Also relevant is section 12102H2 of the education article of the Maryland Code, which previously prohibited all regents from receiving compensation for their service. Due to this additional year of service as a student, the General Assembly amended this law to permit this tuition waiver because this additional year of service as a student regent can, in some cases, preclude a student's opportunity for employment while still a student. The proposed changes in the bylaws on page 7 also revise the bylaws to permit a student regent in their first year to vote if the other student regent position is vacant. The second bylaw provision to be amended is a provision that allows regents to participate by telephone or video conferencing in a special board meeting or regular board meeting being held during extreme weather, public health, or similar type emergency. Currently, each regent must be physically present in order to vote at regular meetings, and this revision will permit more flexibility. So do I have a motion to approve these two revisions?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? That is my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Regent Wood. Now we'll move on to the Committee of the Whole, and our first update is from Regent Gordine on a sad note.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my pleasure to provide an update to the Board of Regents on the UMBC presidential search. As you've noted, as many of us have noted, President Hrabowski's contributions are many and are lasting, not only to UMBC and to our system, but also to the city, state, region, and the nation. And I think it's safe to say internationally as well. Without question, it will be difficult to say goodbye to President Hrabowski and difficult to replace him. But I look very much forward to chairing this search committee and, of course, working with the UMBC community to install a president just as devoted and dedicated to the university, its mission, and its future. As many of you know, I also have a personal connection to and affection for UMBC as a parent of two sons who attended the university. On a personal note, let me just go off script here and say, because I mentioned this, Freeman, yesterday to some visitors who came to my office at the University of Maryland Medical System, that being a mother of two African-American males, I cannot tell you how important it was for them to have you as a role model. And so I just want to express my gratitude to you as a mother for showing my sons the opportunities and the potential that they otherwise may not have understood. So thank you for that. I will also be assisted in this process by Vice Chancellor Tim McDonough, who also has two children that are current undergraduates at UMBC. In terms of process, our search is officially underway and will gain momentum in the coming weeks. In early October, I am scheduled to participate in a town hall with Chancellor Perman, so we can receive feedback from the campus community on the kind of experience, character, and qualities wanted in the next UMBC president. We are also anxious to learn more from stakeholders about their vision and priorities for the institution. We're developing a set of nominees for the UMBC President Search and Screening Committee and are still in the process of gathering names. By early next month, the board must vote to approve the final roster of the search committee members. Our intention is that the members of this committee will ultimately reflect the students, faculty, staff, alumni, and university stakeholders of UMBC. The national executive search firm, Isaacson Miller, will help facilitate the search committee's work. And we have just had last week our initial meeting with Isaacson Miller. Once the search committee is named, we will begin our work with several additional listening sessions where we hope to tap the ideas and thoughts of leaders throughout the UMBC community. This will include forums with the Student Government Association, Graduate Student Association, Faculty Senate, Professional Staff Senate, non-exempt staff senate, president's council, alumni, and other stakeholders. From there, our search for candidates will span the nation, and we hope to develop a list of finalists for the board by late winter or very early spring. There is a place on the UMBC website where community members can learn all about the search process, provide input, and nominate individuals for the search committee. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to update the board on this important search, and I look forward to coming back to the board with an impressive list of finalists. In the meantime, I'm happy, Madam Chair, to answer any questions that anyone may have. Thank you.
Any questions for Michelle?
I just have to say, we are honored to have a parent who is chairing this and to have Tim there also. The other point, I'm privileged to be working with boards around the country and selecting presidents. And this is what I can say from a national perspective. People respect the university system of Maryland. They really do. People want to be in this state because we believe in higher education. So I want to thank the board for what you do. People know that presidents are respected here. That's not always the case, but thank you all for that.
Our final business item will be a report out on the UB Task Force, the University of Baltimore Task Force report from the University of Baltimore President Kurt Smoke.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I really appreciate this opportunity, and I thank the members of the Board of Regents for reading all that material that we submitted. It was not our intention to overwhelm you, but just to let you know that the task force report is not gathering dust at the university. I want to thank former Regent Barry Gossett and the Vice Chancellor Lynn Raley for chairing this. But Madam Chair, I just wanted to take a couple of minutes, particularly because we have new members of the board, to give context of why the University of Baltimore is different by design, and also why it is that we asked for this review by the Board of Regents. First of all, it should be noted that the University of Baltimore was founded in 1925 as a merger of a night law school and a night business school. It has always been very career oriented and focused on what we used to call non-traditional students, the working men and women who are looking for a career advancement. So from 1925 to 1975, the University of Baltimore was a private institution. For a variety of reasons, it became a part of the state system in 1975, but there was a condition attached to its admission as a part of the system, and that is that it would not admit freshmen and sophomores. So from 1975, for the next 30 years to 2005, there was a very clear a distinction for the University of Baltimore. It was a one-sentence distinction. The University of Baltimore is the state's only upper division university. That was very clear. Then in 2005, a decision was made to have the university expand to admitting freshmen and sophomores, become a four-year institution. There it had pluses and minuses to that. Unfortunately, we by doing that, we became in competition with our main source of students, which are community colleges. We also came in without dormitories, without athletics, things of that nature. And there simply was a kind of a loss of definition. You're no longer the distinct upper division. What are you? And so we have moved along quite well. I mean, we have some great strengths, as Vice Chancellor Bachman mentioned about our law school just recently, to show that we kind of punch above our weight. The last three circuit court judges that the governor appointed were the University of Baltimore graduates. Most importantly, they were from three different states. They're from counties, Washington County, Anne Arundel County, and Baltimore County. It just shows so we have a statewide impact. But our identity was getting lost in kind of the alphabet soup of universities. Were we UMB? I want to thank Freeman for when his basketball team won a few years ago. They beat the University of Virginia. I got so many congratulations on my team. And then people ask me for tickets. But there's a clear loss of identity there. And so what we did, we came to the chancellor and to the board and asked, how do we fit within the system? How do you view us? And as you notice in the report, the task force report comes out with another very good elevator speech for us, which is the goal of the University of Baltimore should be the premier regional university for career advancement. That's what the report says. That's what we are striving to achieve, with a goal of becoming primarily a graduate school. That is, our goal is to be 60% graduate and professional students, 40% undergraduate. I won't go through all the 8 different task force that you asked, that the report asked for, but there were 3 particular items that were noted as being of concern. One was identity, making sure that we could break out of the alphabet soup of universities. And so the report asked us to emphasize the word "the." We are the University of Baltimore, which we are doing. And then when we use shorthands, rather than calling ourselves UB, the report recommends that we call ourselves UBalt. That is very much along the lines of the University of Connecticut, which we all know as UConn. We are emphasizing UBalt. I believe there may be a short a video of some of the social media work that we're doing. Is that posted?
You're both. Great basketball team. It's very nice. Very nice.
So it doesn't roll easily off the tongue, but that is now in all of our material that we're sending out. We're emphasizing the U-Balt, and we remain undefeated. Thank you very much. And there was also a request by the Regents to reorganize our whole marketing effort, which we have done under one office. The next was enrollment issues. We have seen a unfortunate decline in enrollment, except for the law school. The law school is this year admitted the largest class that it has in the last 5 years. But the rest of the university still saw a decline, but we are slowing that pace of decline because we have a new vice president for enrollment management. She's reorganized the team. She's doing very well. And we think that we will be able to stabilize over the next few years and then grow. And then finally, on financial stability, working with Ellen Herbst and our outstanding vice president for finance and administration, we've been able
to keep to move ahead, to have a balance there. We clearly are concerned because we depend so much on the state appropriation and our enrollment, but we have stabilized by reducing the size of our staff. In fact, over the last 5 years, a 17% reduction in staff. So we are living within our means, and the focus very clearly on implementing all of the recommendations. And I thank you all very much for your support for this institution, which, although small in comparison to some of the others, really punches above its weight and does a great job for the citizens of the state. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you, Kurt. Any questions for President Smoke? Gary?
Just a comment. Thank you for that report and the materials. I was struck today when our student council leader said that she was on campus, how safe she felt, how good she felt to be on campus. I think it's important for all of us to realize University of Baltimore is right in the center of the city of Baltimore. It's the first thing you see when you come off of the train and you see the beautiful law school and the buildings. So, you know, we need this school to be vibrant and to be successful, because if we're not there, the whole city would really be in trouble. So, and thanks for your leadership, Kurt. And, you know, I know we all look forward to making you successful and the university. Thank you.
Any other, Bob?
Thank you, Madam Chair. President Smoke, I was curious about, as you're looking at the future and rebranding and reimagining the institution, what role has city government and city leadership work with you in terms of this gym we have and how we can leverage it to help the city be a better place?
Thank you very much, Regent. We work very closely in partnership. As you know, one of the things that's happened over the last few years, and this is pre-COVID, about half of our academic credits were offered online, which meant, and the Regents pointed this out in the task force, that we had some physical facilities that were in excess. The city had a very difficult problem in that its police academy, training center was located in a rundown middle school in Northwest Baltimore. And so we worked in partnership with the police, and now the academy and the full-time training center is located on the campus of the University of Baltimore, which they pay good rent. And we are looking for other opportunities to collaborate with the city in that regard, but that's just the most visible example. We do have leadership training programs with the city. We have a certificate program that I know you would be interested in with the clergy, because the clergy in Baltimore is so active in a variety of ways. And we have this leadership program deals with economic and housing development so we are, as I like to say, not only the University of Baltimore, but the University for Baltimore. And that you can demonstrate in a lot of different ways.
Thank you, President Smoke.
Any other comments or questions for President Smoke? Off again. Thank you for the update.
I
And
didn't
for
know
all.
if Regent Wood had.
Regent Wood?
Thank you very much. I just have a quick question regarding enrollment.
Yes.
Do you think, President Schmoke, that the Freddie Gray case and some of the high-profile crimes that we've seen occur in Baltimore City have impacted enrollment? And secondly, do you think that if there's less of that, that will positively grow enrollment?
Thank you very much for that question. We've done a lot of surveys of students questioning people who chose not to come to the University of Baltimore, questioning students who are there. We did see an impact in 2016 and 17 regarding in the aftermath of Freddie Gray. That has not been the case since then. What we saw was some real failings on our part in following up in with students. We had some dysfunction in our enrollment management operation that had got improved on the law school side. And that's why you see the law school doing so well. In the other parts of the university, we had our own internal problems, which we have worked on and are correcting. And so we think that the Freddie Gray issue is less and less important, but safety is a key issue. And that's why I tell people that we do have the police academy right there on our campus. And that when, as Ms. Harper mentioned, you can feel very safe, though we are right physically in the heart of center of Baltimore City. Thank you.
Again, thank you, President Smoke, and thank you for all that you're doing to get these things implemented. And you know, we're here to support the presidents, and President Smoke briefed us for you new regents and said, you know, I'd really like your help in really thinking through this problem. And we put together a task force, and they very quickly turned around a report. And to their credit, the report was very well done. But more importantly, the team has been able to implement it. So it was implementable. So congratulations to you and the team for moving forward.
Thank you very much. And thank to all the regents for your help.
Before we wrap up, once again, I want to welcome our new regents, and I neglected to have them raise their hands this morning, so I'll briefly go through the names. Raise your hand so people can see name face. So Hugh Breslin, Robert Herr, Doug Peters. I think everyone knows Doug, though. Andy Smerick. Ms. Pringle couldn't be with us today. Ada was here a moment ago, and Ayatollah. And so welcome. And I want to really foot stomp what Bobby's comments this morning on thanking the chancellor, the system staff, the presidents, and even our board for getting through these past 18 months. It hasn't been easy. I don't think it's going to get any easier. Kudos to the presidents for a 94% plus vaccination rate. And I have to tell you, magna cum laude for the flagship with that 98, almost 98%. You're just a hair away from 98% vaccination rate. Congratulations to all of you for really working to keep our students safe and to keep our campuses open. And it would go without saying if we didn't remember that today is September 10th. So before we end our public portion of the meeting, I just want to take a moment for us to collectively remember that tomorrow is the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. That terrible day forever changed our nation, our world, our USM family, and others in so many ways. Today, we remember the people who lost their lives that day and those who served our country and communities in keeping it safe, both then and every day since 9/11. So thank you for all that you do and all that you will do. And let's hope for a very safe and secure year. With that, I will move that we convene to closed session. because the Open Meetings Act permits public bodies to close their meetings to the public in circumstances outlined in 3-305 of the Act, and to carry out administrative functions exempted by 3-103 of the Act. The Board of Regents will now vote to reconvene in closed session. The agenda for the public meeting today includes a written statement with a citation of the legal authority and reasons for closing the meeting and a listing of the topics to be discussed. The statement has been provided to the Regents and is posted on the USM's website. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All in favor? We are now out of public session.